a lot of parents, when they come to me when their kids aren't listening to them, I sometimes start with, let's build that connection and relationship with your child again. And they look at me like, no, this isn't about me, it's about my child. And I say, no. But when that connection is strong, that's where all the other strategies come out from. I can give you strategies, but the problem behavior will keep happening. We need the connection to be solved.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining us for our event about common motherhood challenges and how to cope with them. My name is Humaira. I'm the co-founder and content team lead of Ruh. What is Ruh? Ruh is a mindfulness and mental health app for Muslims. And at Ruh, we wanted to make a space for our mothers who care so much, for first and foremost to their children and to their families. And so it's a way for us to show that we care for them and we believe that they deserve care as well. This event is happening in partnership with Rising Youth, so I'd like to thank our sponsor for this opportunity. And I'd also like to get right into it and introduce our speaker. Runda is a mother and an occupational therapist. She does amazing work in terms of both being a mother herself, being able to really stand in mother's shoes as being a mother. She provides amazing resources on her mother care journey website and Instagram. Mashallah, she's very active. I'm not a mother yet. Inshallah, I hope to be. But I'm not a mother yet. I benefit a lot from her content. So I invite you to check her work online, inshallah, and you'll get to know her more through this event. So just a couple of housekeeping things before I pass the mic over to her. We're going to have our speaker talk for about 45 minutes, and then at the end we'll have a 15-minute Q&A session where you can ask your questions. You can send them through the chat. If you'd like it to be confidential, you can send it directly to Runda or myself so that only we see it, and then we'll just narrate your questions. If you'd like, you can raise your hand and speak as well, however you'd like. And I hope that this is a beneficial session for all of us. And without further ado, I'll pass the mic over to Sister Runda.
Thank you, Humaira. Jazakallah khair. I'm really, really glad to be here today and to have the opportunity to connect with all of you. So thank you for all being here from wherever you are in the world. I love talking about motherhood, and I'm so glad that we have this partnership, alhamdulillah, with so many wonderful organizations here together. I've always been passionate about supporting mothers, and then especially when I became a mother, I love talking about the challenges and how we can cope with them in an effort to help mothers feel less alone. Because I think what happens is when we're struggling, we can sometimes start to think that it's just us and that everyone else has it all figured out, which can't be farther from the truth. So I really like to talk about this topic and to connect with so many mothers everywhere. It's really empowering and we need that support. And when we talk about the challenges, it's helpful to know that if you are experiencing difficulty along your motherhood journey, it doesn't reflect on you as a mother. It's a reflection of how incredibly important and challenging this role can be. It's one of those things that we don't get a lot of training on, right? We learn on the job and we become mothers, and that's where reality kind of strikes. And we're trying to figure out how to be a mom, how to keep up with all our previous life responsibilities, our relationships, our families, taking care of ourselves, raising a child. Like it's a lot to try and navigate. So I just want to validate that if you're having difficulty, you're not alone. And it's because of the nature of the role, not because of you, not because of your child, something we all experience. And I want to start by also saying that it's okay for us to talk about the challenges. I think we sometimes sometimes don't share how hard things can be because of that kind of that risk of vulnerability that comes with sharing that we're struggling. And this can really perpetuate a feeling of aloneness and isolation and further kind of mental health and emotional health struggles for moms. So I like to always encourage that if you have someone in your life that you trust, finding someone that might be going through the same thing as you, connecting with even a virtual village of moms where you can talk to each other. It's so important. And I want to emphasize that the role of a mother in Islam is so highly regarded. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran in more than one verse the validation of how difficult motherhood is. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "We have commanded people to be good to their parents. Their mothers carried them with strain upon strain, and it takes 2 years to wean them. Give thanks to me and to your parents. All will return to me." So this is such amazing reassurance and validation from Allah that it's okay if you're finding it hard. It's not because of you. And the strain here in this verse refers to so many of the challenges that we're all familiar with, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says in another ayah, "We have commanded man to be good to his parents. His mother struggled to carry him and struggled to give birth to him." In Surah Al-Ahqaf. So soon after talking about parents in general, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the mother again, emphasizing the physical, mental, and emotional challenges that she might experience. Um, and this is just, it's so powerful to know because the creator of the entire world is validating how hard it is for us, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions it in the Quran multiple times. And we know a lot of ahadith that talk about the role of a mom in Islam and her status. There's a story that many of us might know where a companion of the Prophet, peace be upon him, saw a man carrying his mother on his back as he walked during a religious ritual. I think it was Hajj. And anyone who's been to Hajj, I remember it's really challenging at times to just walk by yourself, like just with nobody, you're not carrying anyone to just try and make it around Tawaf and make it to all the rituals and the sa'i. It's hard. So this man carried his mom on his back through all of that. And this man then goes to the companion and says, in reference to, do you think I've repaid my mom? In reference to carrying his mom on his back. And the companion replied, "No, you haven't, not even for a single contraction during childbirth." And I remembered this story when I was giving birth to my last child in labor. I was having contractions. I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Story makes so much sense because every contraction is so difficult. And truly, there's nothing to repay that. So, not to even mention the after piece where you're actually now having to raise a child. So, all of that to say, you're a big deal. You're very important. You're so valuable. Your hard work, your effort, it's noticed and seen and appreciated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our creator, the one who created the heavens and the earth and all of the blessings. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala specifically mentions the mother. So with that, today we'll be talking about common challenges in motherhood. And Humaira and I were talking about kind of how to make this as smooth as possible. And we figured it'd be good to go through each kind of stage of parenting. So I'll start with like the newborn stage, and then I'll go to toddlerhood, preschool, school age, and then teens. So bear with me if you're not in one of those stages. I will get to your stage eventually. So the first stage I'm going to be talking about is the newborn stage. And I don't know if we can have like a show of hands. How many moms here have newborn babies or, within the 6-month age range? I'm in all of those stages, mashallah, Khadija. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you the strength to cater to every age and stage because they truly do need different things. So may Allah give you the strength. Inshallah, I'll be having my second next month, so about to come back. Hey, this is perfect timing. MashaAllah, 19, 17, 11, 6, and an 8-month-old. MashaAllah. MashaAllah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you immense strength to give your children what they need and what you need as well. Wonderful. So we have first child in November. Inshallah, all goes smoothly, Ramsha. That's exciting. First child. 9, 3, and 11 months. MashaAllah, Nada. I have a 1-year-old. Perfect. This is excellent because we're going to get to all of these stages. So bear with me. And if you're not in one of these stages, but let's say you have a sister or a friend or a family member that will be in or is in these stages, then you can maybe offer them a little bit of support with that, just because we all need support through all of these stages. So the newborn stage. So there are obvious challenges that arise during this stage, such as recovering from birth. I think we underestimate what birth, no matter how you gave birth, whether it was, the like, giving birth with contractions and all of that, and a C-section, whatever kind of birth you had, there's an extensive recovery process that has to happen after. And I think we're sometimes influenced by society where we feel like we need to bounce back. I got to get back to my life, back to my usual responsibilities, back to my clothes, all of these things. And it's so important to just not listen to any of that and to really prioritize your recovery. Your body has undergone an experience where literally all your internal organs have shifted and changed. The structure of your body, the hormones, the balance of it all has been completely different than what it usually is. And now it's trying to get that all back. So to remember that it's supposed to take time and patience, and you do need that care, that community care to help you recover from this very incredible experience. So there's the recovery, adjusting to motherhood life. So especially if it's your first baby, there's an adjustment period with every baby, every child that you add to your family, but especially when it's your first baby, it's that readjusting how my lifestyle is, right? And getting used to things be completely different than how they were before. And then this isn't meant to scare anyone. It's not, it's just meant to kind of prepare that there is that adjustment period where everything that you had in your previous life just needs to be done a little bit differently, right? So your time in life sort of revolve around this little human being that needs you for everything, right? They're fully dependent on us. And just kind of going into it knowing, okay, it will be different, just so it's not a bit of a reality shock. It will be different, and I will find my rhythm. I will find a new routine for myself, but I'm going to give myself time to adjust, just like anything new, moving to a new country, starting a new job, getting married, anything like that requires adjustment. And then adding a human being into your life that is completely dependent on you will need a little bit of that adjustment as well. And at this stage, it's so important to form that secure attachment with your baby. So you're also trying to focus on that. They need so much holding and cuddling and soothing and reassuring, and feeding, trying to put them to sleep. All of these things can make you feel at the end of the day like that's all I did. I just changed diapers and I fed and I soothed and then repeat. And it can be an all-day thing where you just need kind of a break from that ongoing routine. And it's okay to validate that wow, this day has gone by and I feel like I didn't do anything but take care of my baby. Completely normal. And we all experience that. So just to keep that in mind. And to also remember that while you're tending to your child's needs, day in, day out, what happens to our needs at that time? Usually, our needs kind of start to take a bit of a back seat, right? And this isn't, something that I'm necessarily encouraging. I'm just saying it's kind of the reality of what happens during the stage because of the amount of work involved in caring for a baby. And that's where a lot of moms start to feel that burnout, that overwhelm, that exhaustion in your bones. Some of you might understand what that means. You're just so tired and you don't even sometimes feel like yourself, right? And these are all things that mothers have voiced to me. I've experienced it because you're in that constant caregiving role. So that's where it becomes so essential for us to tune in. Okay, I'm feeling kind of at the end of my rope. I need a break, and to tune into how your body is feeling, what your needs are. I'm not going to kind of paint some idyllic picture where we are taking care of all of our needs and we're always showered and we've slept okay and we feel okay. The reality is it might not look like that. And if you feel that way, that you haven't been able to take proper care of yourself, you're joined by millions of mothers around the world. And I would hope and I would love and wish that every mother had a support system where she did feel like that after birth, where she did feel like she was properly supported and surrounded by a village of people that loved her and took care of her and helped her care and meet all of those needs. But the reality is, it's not always going to work out that way. So to just honor your needs when you can, trying to prioritize them when you can, not to put more pressure on yourself, but to just keep in mind that you're really important too. Like, you're really, really valuable. And if mom is not well, chances are the rest of the family isn't well. And it's more of an indication of your worth and your value, not the pressure that, oh, well, I have to be good so everyone else is good. No, it's, you deserve to feel good. So to just keep that in mind. And I remember this phase of my life kind of like a blur. I don't know if anyone else felt like that. Like moms that whose children are a little bit past that newborn stage, do you look back and feel like you were in a bit of a haze just because of how tired you are, and you're kind of just adjusting and trying to figure out what your baby needs from you. And it's normal to kind of feel that. I felt like this brain fog. Like, I'd be out and people would talk to me and I'm like, I can't even like string a full sentence together. So there is that piece of it too. And so the other piece of it, like I kind of mentioned before, is if you're finding it hard to cope and you need to talk to someone about it, to take away that shame from it. It's okay to talk about how hard it is. We know how blessed we are. We are grateful beyond measure. And talking about our struggles doesn't mean we're not grateful. You can be immensely grateful for something and still find it hard. So if you have friends, that are kind of going through it or have gone through it, a support group, a mom's play group. I remember I lived at play groups with my children because I needed that, to be around other moms that were going through it. And it just helped us get out of the house, helped us have somewhere to go. We have really bad winters here in Canada, like really, really challenging in the winter to go out. And I had my daughter in one of the worst winters we've ever had. So I couldn't go out for walks, which were usually really soothing for me. So I had to, I went to play groups and I loved it. And I met so many moms and we'd talk about the same things and what we were going through. And I would leave feeling like this sense of relief that, hey, everyone else is going through this too. Yes, it's hard, but we will get through it, inshallah. So if you could find something local like that, now there's probably some more virtual options, but if you can also try and get out and do things with your baby, walks. There's like stroller groups. I joined one once. That was challenging. My daughter needed to be held, cried a lot as a baby. So those were sometimes hard because I was like holding her and pushing the stroller, but it's just being around other moms is so, so helpful. Find something that works for you. Mom and baby yoga, mom play groups, baby and me classes, whatever it is. Believe me, you'll start to feel a little bit better, after you've kind of recovered. Like, I wouldn't do anything in the first 2-3 months, but just give yourself time as something to look forward to. And then part of this phase, which is actually part of every phase, I think, but especially when you're recovering from birth, is to prioritize rest whenever you can. I won't say sleep when the baby sleeps. So don't leave the talk. But and I know, because there's usually things that we need to do, right? When our baby is finally napping or sleeping, there's so many things that we need to do. We need to sometimes shower, take care of ourselves, eat something, right? With both hands, because you're not holding your baby, calling a friend, doing things you enjoy, painting, drawing, writing, reading, whatever it is. Just that time where you can just kind of be and take care of yourself is so important. In addition to any other responsibilities we have, we might have other children we're caring for. So, but I will also say that if you can, try to at least use one of your baby's naps. Usually newborns kind of have sporadic, unpredictable nap times. They might have little cat naps throughout the day until they consolidate and become more predictable and longer. But to just try and find at least one nap where you can just lay down, even if you can't sleep. I could never nap during the day, no matter how tired I was. But just laying down in a dark room, lights closed, taking deep breaths, And reducing that ongoing stimulation that we're constantly getting throughout the day is so helpful. Your body and your mind need this. So trying to prioritize that wherever you can. Really, really important. Making sure you're eating those whole nutritious foods that your body needs to be able to kind of build itself back together. I know how hard this is though, because when you're holding baby in one hand, you can't really make stuff with the other hand. So to try and have those easy to eat with one hand snacks, grab and go kind of snacks prepared if possible. I used to just kind of batch stuff whenever I did have a free moment, or family can help with that. That would be wonderful. Like just making fruit cups or something that you can eat, or shakes, because you need to fuel yourself, right? You need to be okay. You need to feel that energy that if we're not getting a whole lot of it from sleep, to try and get as much as we can from those whole foods that really do nurture our bodies. So to honor your body and to try and give it what it needs. And remember, you're caring for a child day and night, so you need someone to help you care for you too. There's so much about the newborn stage, but I'll try to cut it short because there's other stages. I'll also talk a little bit about advice that you might receive, because I get this a lot from moms. I get a lot of moms that message me and say, this person, it's usually kind of like an elderly person, or someone in the community or in the family that says, what you're doing is wrong, do it this way. And I always just say, you are your child's mother. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose you to be your child's mother for a reason. You have this intuition, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us like a sixth sense, this intuition that nobody else has. You know your baby best, you know yourself and your family. And advice is just that. It's just someone's opinion on what worked for them or what they've seen work for someone else. So it's usually well-intentioned. They're trying to help make a mom's life easier. I would hope that's the goal. You don't have to listen to all the advice you get, right? Even today, like I might say something that you're like, oh, I don't know about that. That's okay. You take what works for you, what aligns with your values, and you leave what doesn't. It's okay for us to not have to change our entire parenting style because of someone's advice. And the other thing is, I find that some people sometimes forget what it's like to have a newborn baby when they're way past that stage. So they might give advice that actually isn't really even relevant, or it doesn't really make sense. So just to keep that in mind. One of the most common pieces of advice that moms come to me with is, people tell me not to hold my baby so much, that I'm doing this to myself. Baby's manipulating me, I'm spoiling them. They're never gonna, learn to be independent, let them soothe themselves. And I can say this as a therapist that works with children and babies and kind of studied this throughout my career and my education. You can't spoil a baby. Babies are wired for connection. They need to be cuddled and held and soothed. And you are actually building those building blocks in your child's brain and development the more you hold them. The more reassured they feel, the safer they feel, the more secure of an attachment they have with you, the more you've built that foundation of safety, which will yield for them to be more independent as they grow older. They're not scared to venture off from you because you've built that strong, secure foundation. And I can attest to this 100%. My daughter was very attached to me. She was a highly sensitive baby. I was the only one that could hold her for like the first 9 or 10 months of her life. I have some friends on here. They can attest to that. I was always holding her, always nursing her whenever we were together, soothing her. She was very stimulated by sounds and lights and didn't want anyone else to hold her. So I was very limited in what I could do during those 9 or 10 months. She was attached at the hip. I leaned into that. I gave her all the security, all the love, all the holding. Was it exhausting? Absolutely. However, she did become very secure in her attachment with me. And now she has no problem being away with me. And I can't tell you how wonderful it feels to know that she feels secure, that she knows I'm here for her. And she feels safe enough to venture off, to be without me. She started daycare, she started preschool, she's starting kindergarten this year, and she's built that mom's here for me. She's not purposely not holding me, not being with me. No, mom has given me all the security I needed as an infant and as a baby and as a toddler. And whenever you get that advice, just remember that story and remember that babies need connection. We're not doing anything wrong because I remember getting this advice too with my son. And it got to the point where I would hold him and I'd feel bad. And I had to really snap out of it. I'm like, what is wrong with me? Like, this advice doesn't sit well with me for a reason. It's going against my intuition and my natural instincts as a mom to go to my baby and to hold them and to soothe them. So just to kind of let you know that this might happen, you might receive advice. Take what you can, take what feels good to you, leave what doesn't. You are your child's mother for a reason. And then the last thing I'll talk about the newborn stage, which is very, very important, is to differentiate between the baby blues and postpartum depression. So baby blues are experienced by about 80% of moms, not more. And it's characterized by those like temporary dips in mood. And it's usually due to all the changes in the hormones. So you do have a lot of hormones that are kind of going up and down. So you might find yourself feeling really sad one moment and then really happy and then crying and then feeling okay. That is normal. A lot of moms experience that because your body's still kind of coming down from all those hormones that it needed and chemicals in your body while you were giving birth. And you could have like a little bit of anxiety, feeling overwhelmed, those kinds of symptoms. So usually within the first 2 weeks, those symptoms do improve. If they last longer, that's where, therapists and doctors usually think it might be postpartum depression. And, it's where you might feel more anxious, more overwhelmed. All your symptoms will probably intensify. Some moms have a hard time caring for themselves and their baby, getting out of bed, having a lot of negative thoughts, feeling hopeless, struggling to bond with their baby. A lot of symptoms that kind of just indicate I'm not okay, I'm really not okay. And this is where support is absolutely essential. I think we try to tough it out on our own and we say, no, I don't want my doctor or someone to think there's, something wrong with me as a mom. Many mothers experience postpartum depression and it goes undiagnosed. And then they suffer for longer unnecessarily. And this doesn't mean you have to take medications. Like medications might be part of the treatment, but I think a lot of moms are reluctant to say anything because they don't want to take medications. But there are other therapies. There's going to an actual therapist and talking about your difficulties. It's finding where the areas in your life that you need support and trying to cultivate that for you, helping you see, just a different way of how you can get through this time, because it can start to feel very hopeless and you don't need to suffer and struggle on your own. So please seek help. It's actually the wisest thing you can do for yourself and your baby and your family. Everyone wins when a mother is properly supported. Everyone. So taking care of yourself, seeking therapy and support is really, really important. So now we're in the toddler stage. So at this point, you've probably adjusted to motherhood a little bit. It's been about a year or so. Sleep is probably maybe better, hopefully. You understand your child and their cues more. So you know them. If you know their cues, you know how to kind of, interact with them. You may have gone back to caring for yourself in some ways, right? Some mothers, that's when they are able to go back to their hobbies, so things that help them feel like themselves. And depending on where you live and your maternity leave and work schedule, whether you've gone back to work if you were working beforehand. So a lot of changes might be happening. Your child might be starting childcare. So much can be going on. So it might be more or less hectic depending on your circumstances. But it can be harder from the standpoint of at this age, children are a lot more mobile. They want to touch everything, see everything, smell, taste, everything, right? And that's completely natural and normal. And if they weren't doing that, then we'd be concerned about their development, right? They're supposed to be wanting to discover and explore, and everything will probably be in their mouth at some point. So just watch out for that. The strangest things my kids have put in their mouth, so just be careful. And it can become hard on us mothers to make sure everything is safe, following them around, not being able to sit for a minute. They're climbing on things, they're grabbing things, and it can feel exhausting. And then you're like, oh, the newborn days were much easier when they didn't move as much. So every stage has its challenges and it's, really great parts of it. Toddlers are really, really awesome. They are. I know they can be really challenging with their behavior, but they're developing their personality, and it will be so amazing to see how their personality emerges. They're hilarious half the time. They really have just such a, carefree relationship with the world. And so just remember that the way we view our toddlers really impacts how we respond to them and how we think of them. So I know there's a common, thing that we say, terrible twos. My child is in the terrible twos. They're terrible, they're crazy, they're touching everything. And I know we do that for comic relief, and that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking more about starting to see your toddler as actually like a force of destruction in your house or really terrible. It really does impact how we respond to them. Instead of the terrible twos, I like to use the term testing twos. They're testing everything in their environment. They say, oh, I wonder what happens if I drop my cup from my high chair. I wonder what happens if I pull my sister's hair. I wonder what happens if I hit this child. I wonder what happens when I break this vase, right? They're not trying to annoy us. They're not trying to make things harder for us. They are testing their environment. They're learning. They're making, I don't know how many, I think it's like hundreds of thousands of connections and neurons in their brain, because they're learning things and it's connecting to previous things they've learned. And oh, that's what happens when a ball falls. And that's what happens when I do this. And mom gets upset when I do that, but she's happy when I do this. So they're learning, they're testing. Looking at it from that perspective can really help us cope that there's nothing wrong with my toddler. They want to explore. That's how they learn. And they will eventually settle. But the thing that I did that really helped me with my kids is making a lot of yes spaces in our home. So a yes space is a space in our home that's completely safe for them to explore, touch everything. Even if it's just like a part of your living room or part of your kitchen or basement or one of your bedrooms. Basically, they're allowed to explore as much as they want. And I don't have to keep saying, no, don't touch that. No, that's not safe. It's just, yes, you can play with that. And it really, really helped with them learning, developing, and me not being so stressed all the time. So just something to keep in mind. And just to remember, it can take a toll when you feel like all day long I've done nothing but taking care of my toddler and kept them out of trouble. I understand that, and I just want to validate that it can feel like all day long that's all you've done. You haven't been able to make any of your to-do list things checked off. I understand how frustrating that can be. But like I said, the more secure the attachment, the more we understand their development and that they need to explore. And we can come to them and give them that yes spaces, like this is yes, this is no. Being gentle with them, the more we react in a very extreme way, yelling, just being very reactive, the more our toddler might want to see that. Again, they're testing. So, giving more attention to the behavior you want to see versus the behavior you don't want to see, right? So if they're gently, touching, their sibling, or they're playing with them nicely. And even though we might think they don't understand, but this is where we develop their communication skills, and we go to them, get on the same level as them and say, I like how nicely you're playing with your sister or your brother, or, thank you for picking up your goldfish crackers or something like that, right? Versus always them only hearing from us when they're doing something wrong. Don't throw that, don't hit him, don't catch, don't, whatever it is. So giving more attention to the behavior you want to see. The other thing about this stage and all the stages, so a lot of these will be relevant to all the stages, is to have realistic expectations of ourselves. So evaluating, what are my expectations of myself in this phase of my motherhood journey? Am I trying to achieve too much right now when it's just not realistic? So to have those realistic expectations of ourselves and our children, especially when we're asking our children to do things and they're not listening to us, trying to think, am I expecting something that's realistic for their level of development and where they are right now? Or am I expecting something that just isn't realistic and that's why they're not listening to me? So the next stage is the preschool school age. At this point, our children probably have gained some more skills. They're a little bit more independent in certain areas. Their personality has really started to shine through. We have a better idea of their temperaments, maybe more of a grasp on parenting in general. And you might start seeing more of your children wanting to assert their independence, a lot of saying no when we ask them to do things. And again, this is part of them developing that personality, finding their voice, testing how things work out in the world, how the world works. They're still learning all of that. So at this age, our children's communication has generally developed more. And that's the thing with the toddler stage before that you might see a lot more of those meltdowns and tantrums because of the frustration of not being able to communicate your needs yet, right? You can't always say, Mom, I'm feeling lonely, I need a hug. They'll likely have a meltdown and elicit that connection from you. Or, Mom, I'm hungry. Don't know how to, they don't always say it, right? And they're still developing those communication and those vocabularies. So they might start crying and you're out in public. You're like, what is wrong? I don't know what to do. Offering a snack and then they're fine, right? So just trying to understand their cues, teaching them those words, you know, I want a snack or just food or water, or just helping them develop those communication skills. The more you speak with them, read to them, that's where they'll develop a lot of those skills as well. So at the preschool age, school age, they develop more of those communication skills. They can ask you more for what they need. And you might start to see that you need to start putting firm boundaries around behavior at this stage. And when I say the word boundaries, it's not, boundaries in terms of us, yelling and being harsh. It's boundaries with empathy and compassion for our children. Telling our children, for example, I know you don't want to go to school today. I understand it's hard for you to be away from me, and that's okay to feel sad when I drop you off at school. I miss you too. Let's talk about if there's something we can do to help you feel safer going to school, right? So putting those boundaries, like you're still going to school, but I understand how hard it is for you, right? So having that empathy and compassion with our children when they're asking us for things. I want to watch more TV. I want to stay up later, right? Staying up later is usually an indication of, Mom, I miss you and I want more time with you. We see it from that lens versus my child is trying to throw me over the edge right now because I just want them to sleep. We're a lot more able to be compassionate with them. So this is something I talk about a lot, which is trying to see the feeling underneath the behavior. What is their behavior communicating to me? Be really, really helpful and validating their needs while also putting boundaries. And then in terms of dealing with our own overwhelm, whether it's this stage or any other stage, it can be really helpful to have something for you that you do for yourself. And it's just you by yourself every week, or if you can, I won't say every day, if you can every week, have something for you. So I have my evening walk. That's something I do. And it literally recharges my batteries, helps me feel so good and rejuvenated. I go somewhere in a nice green space and I walk, and it's so helpful. And I look forward to it every day if I can do it every day. Having something for you that helps you feel like yourself is really important to recharge yourself and to feel okay again. I always talk about the frustration beaker, which is how we wake up every day with a certain capacity for frustration tolerance. And the more frustrations we take on and we're not aware of, the more likely we'll erupt, right? And we've all experienced those stages where we're just so overwhelmed and angry and frustrated that it comes out in all sorts of ways. But if I'm in tune with how I'm feeling, oh, that beaker is really starting to fill up. I really need to do something to empty it. Going for a walk, praying, listening to something I really like, washing my face with cold water, eating something. Usually we're hungry and we haven't really had anything to eat. We're taking care of everyone. So listening to what your body is telling you and tuning into that is so important. And as Sister Sarah Sultan mentioned in last week's webinar, which is really great, mashallah, about the power of our thoughts on our well-being. So being aware of our thoughts, our mindsets, how we can be more compassionate towards ourselves and our children. So just sitting and evaluating, what kind of thoughts did I have today? Have they been negative? Have I been comparing myself to others? That other mom over there and thinking she has it all together and I'm really not, comparing my kids to other children, and that makes me feel even worse about my parenting. Noticing your thoughts and being able to reframe them is going to be crucial on your motherhood journey. And then we get to teens, and this is where during the stage our children, they're still dependent on us in some ways and independent of us in many ways, and they're really trying to assert that independence. And we might find it harder to understand our children and our teens and their moods and their hormonal changes. And we start to feel like, why does my teen hate me? It's not personal. They're just going through so much on their own. And this is where that stage of befriending our children, our teens, having that important connection and relationship with them is at the core of all our parenting. So every stage, connection. Always remember connection with my child. When they're a teen, they need that so much, and they still need that love. They need that affection. They need those hugs. We need to keep filling our children's emotional tanks while they're still in our homes. We don't want them to come out of our homes with a barely, it's almost empty emotional tank, because they will start to seek that elsewhere, right? We all have this emotional beaker, let's say, and our parents need to keep filling that for us and reminding them of their worth, reminding your teen that you see the inherent goodness within them, even when they make a mistake, letting them know that they can tell you anything, talk to you about anything, having that one-on-one time with them if you can. I know it's hard when you have multiple children, but to try and schedule once a week or something where you guys can go out and just asking them, is there anything that you've been thinking about that you want us to talk about? Like having that safe space at home, that safe culture that my kids can come and talk to me. I'd rather them ask me about all these bizarre things than for them to go somewhere else. Letting them know that you can stay kind of calm and regulated yourself when they bring these really difficult topics to our table. And just reminding them of your love. Just even, some teens these days have phones, texting them saying, I miss you. I hope you're having a good day at school. Can't wait till you come home today. Things like that. When they do come home, letting them know that you love them. Just say, hey, I missed you. How was your day? These are so important, these messages for our children, even when they're younger, very, very important when your kid comes back from school saying, I missed you. I can't wait for us to do this tonight. I can't wait to snuggle with you and read a book. I enjoy spending time with you. I love being your mom. These are all messages that our children really would thrive from hearing, because, we just think our children know my children know I love them, right? That's a no-brainer. But they need to hear it and see it and feel it. And the more you can tell them that, the better the relationship will be. And a lot of parents, when they come to me when their kids aren't listening to them, I sometimes start with, let's build that connection and relationship with your child again. And they look at me like, no, this isn't about me, it's about my child. And I say, no. But when that connection is strong, that's where all the other strategies come out from. I can give you strategies, but the problem behavior will keep happening. We need the connection to be solid. So connecting with your teens, having one-on-one time, letting them know you're on their team, putting boundaries around their social media use, their phone use. It's okay if they're not happy with these boundaries, right? Sometimes we think our role and our goal as parents is to make our children happy. It's not. Our goal is to protect their safety, their well-being, to raise them right, to be righteous, Muslims, inshallah. And that involves putting those boundaries that they are not going to be happy with. We all have instances from our own childhoods where our parents said no to things and we were so miserable. But we grow up and we say, you know what? I understand now. I really do. And empathizing with your child and saying, I know you really want to go to this gathering. I don't feel comfortable with it, so I'm going to have to say no. And it's okay for you to feel sad about that. That's a boundary. I've set a boundary. I've had empathy for my child, told them it's okay for them to feel how they feel. And I've done my role. My job as a parent, I've done it. Their job now is to feel however they feel about it. And to just keep remembering that it's okay. Boundaries help children and teens feel safe. So with that, those were kind of the 4 stages. Sorry if it felt a bit rushed. There's so much I wanted to talk about today. So we talked about common challenges, the importance of meeting our needs, listening to your intuition, giving your children all that connection, safety, and love that you possibly can, while also giving that towards yourself, being compassionate to yourself and not going down a shame spiral whenever we make a mistake, because that doesn't usually help us a whole lot. So Jazakumullah khair. I would love to hear any questions you have or comments. I'll check the chat because I think there's a few comments there.
So feel free to ask your questions, everyone. Both myself and then Sister Runda could also help you if you want to direct message us. If not, we had a few questions from, when people registered, they submitted a few questions. So we could take a look at that also, Sister Runda.
Yeah.
And so forth. So there are a few questions I'm noticing about, let's actually give priority to the question that just came in from Nada.
Okay, yeah.
And then I'll also organize the questions from the type form, inshallah.
Sure. So Neda asked, could you speak about being self-employed and working from home with a toddler slash finding childcare for toddlers. I know this is so hard. I experienced this myself, and I can tell you it's hard for sure. That's where having, if your toddler's with you while you're trying to work, having that yes space, like trying to work in a place where it's their yes space. They're free to explore. You're not constantly worried about them. You can try and get some of your work done while they're playing, setting them up with an activity, whether it's Play-Doh or blocks or, engaging with them, kind of giving them a little bit of that connection with you up front. So if you can sit with them for 10 minutes or so, play with them and then say, Mommy will be back. I can see you from where I am. They might not understand that. They might keep following you, but to keep trying to direct them back to their space where they can freely play. If you can have, sometimes in some communities, there's like university students or high school students that are looking for, babysitting jobs. If you can contract someone to come and watch your toddler while you're working, trying to find a childcare setting that you feel comfortable with, working through, when they're sleeping or they're engaged, or if you have a family member that can take your toddler out for a drive or a walk while you get work done. It is very challenging. I want to validate that even with all the strategies, it might feel like you're constantly shifting your attention between the two, which is so hard. But trying your best to find ways for your toddler to stay kind of engaged and teaching them that independent play. That's such an important skill to teach our children, where I spend a little bit of time up front and then I disengage slowly, let them, experience how to play by themselves, even if it's for 5 minutes at a time. I know it can seem really hard to keep going back and forth, but to try and let them cultivate that sense that I can play on my own. How do you make time to form bonds with each child? I'm having my second child in September, and my firstborn will be 2 in October. Even now, because I work full time, my son is at daycare, and I feel like I don't spend enough time with him. So, and also how to make the adjustment easier for myself and my toddler as we bring home his baby brother, inshallah. Inshallah, all goes smoothly. Such an excellent question. Make time to form bonds with each child. So with your child right now that you already have, after school or after daycare, after you come home, I know how tiring it is. I lived through this too. So I understand. When you get home with your toddler, having that connection time with them, reading a book, even if it's laying down. So I used to bring my son into my bed with me and have like a little nap. He wouldn't be napping. I would just kind of have him there next to me. He'd bring his stuffies and we'd have this like little connection bonding time, going out for walks together, playing with him, just spending that time one-on-one. Well, he's still, he's the only child right now. Sitting with him, playing with him, reading books about becoming a sibling is so important and something you can bond over. So while you're reading books together, snuggling on the couch, there's so many books that talk about bringing a baby home. And I remember I read these to my son every day the last 3 months of my pregnancy, because it really helped him understand what was about to happen. And we could talk about it and he could ask questions. And then when I had my daughter, he came to visit me in the hospital. He was like, Mommy, it's just like the book. I'm like, yeah, it's just like the book we read about how, the big brother comes and visits his baby sister and all of that. So reading books together, just giving your child as much love and affection and as much as you possibly can, bedtime, connecting with him, and then having kind of that ritual for when baby is born. Trying your best, if possible, to have, even if it's 10 minutes a day where you sit with your 2-year-old, with your son, or your child. I'm not sure if it's, your son. Sit with him and just do Play-Doh together, build blocks together, and tell him, I really love playing with you. And to even ask him, like, how are you feeling? I know it can be hard when we have a baby at home now, right? And mommy's a little bit more busy. And just kind of see, although he's 2, but you might really kind of help give him that reassurance that, oh, it's okay that I feel a little bit sad. And that's where a lot of sometimes those behaviors come out with siblings, where, oh, my son keeps hitting the baby or has had so many more meltdowns since we brought the baby home. It's their way of saying my world has been turned upside down and I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to feel about this. And that's where we give them that reassurance. We've read the books to them. We've talked to them about the baby, and we try to spend as much one-on-one time with them after baby is born. But again, I'm saying this with a realistic lens that it might not happen every day, and give yourself compassion for that. Just making that adjustment easier for him by preparing him, and for yourself, looking at what your lifestyle is already like and seeing how that's going to change after baby comes. If you have a husband, is he able to take some time off work? Do you have family or friends around that can help a little bit with meals or pick up and drop off from daycare? It's okay to ask for help, although I know how hard it is. I really do. Around your house, setting up your house in a way. So I remember I put a recliner that just helped me feel a lot more comfortable when I was nursing all day. Just finding ways around your home to make it more smoother, easier, maybe putting your snacks for your toddler in a more accessible way where he can reach them, or his water, so he's not asking you for them all the time. And to just go into it with the mindset that, like I had a friend that told me before I had my second child, she's like, Brenda, some days will be really hard and you have to just hold space for those days. And I'm so glad she told me that, because I remember having those really hard days. And I'm so glad I had that mindset that it's normal for this to be hard. I have a young child, I have a baby, I'm recovering. Normal that it's going to feel really, really, really challenging. It will get better, right? Bringing your thoughts back to this will get better, inshallah, and asking Allah to help you, asking for help from people around you, inshallah, it'll go smoothly. Um, Thank you so much for this informative and really needed advice. Can you advise me on how to ask for more care for myself from your husband? I have a very busy 1-year-old. She has always been a contact sleeper and always needs me to hold her. I understand. Most days, constantly, even until now. Every day for me is, like you said, running around playing with her. And most days I'm depleted. Thank you in advance. This is such an excellent question again. How to ask for more help from your husband, that you need to care for yourself. So thing with, family members or spouses, they can't read our mind, right? Sometimes we think they should just know that I need help. And that would be the ideal world, where people just know that you need help and come and take the baby and say, go have a couple hours to yourself. That's my wish for every mom out there, but it's not realistic always. Talking to your husband, when, if possible, after the baby's asleep and kind of it's calm, and just saying, this is essential for my well-being. And I know you care for my well-being, and I really need you to help with this. Delegating, saying, can you help? Can you get the baby dressed while I go take a shower? Can you, hold our daughter while I just get some rest? I need to make myself something, nutritious to eat. Ask for specific things. So sometimes we say, I need more help. And then husbands are like, what does that mean? I don't know what that means. When, where, at what point of the day? Give specific times. Say, I need an hour right now. Here she is. I will be back in an hour. Sometimes kind of stating it matter of factly, like not like you're seeking permission, but and it's not like I'm doing this no matter what you say. It's more like, I need this time so I can be at my best, and I need to care for myself, right? The caregiver needs to be cared for. I need to take care of myself. And you might have to have these conversations over and over multiple times till it really sticks. I know it's draining and depleting, but you are asking for your needs and voicing them, which is absolutely essential. So don't give up hope. Keep asking for help. And sometimes it's, like I said, a matter of fact of saying, I'm going to go take a shower. I'll be back. Okay. How to keep calm, be patient with my children, avoid yelling or feeling angry usually happens while I'm suppressing the yelling. That's a great question too. So like I said about that frustration beaker, being in tune with how I'm feeling throughout my day, right? It can creep up on us if we're not. I might just suddenly, somebody asks me for something and I fly off the handle. But if I was kind of more aware of how I was feeling throughout the day, like, okay, one more person asks me, or if I hear one more scream from my child, I'm really not going to cope well. I know then that I need to do something for myself. That's where you kind of need to kind of plan for this, right? Think about what things help you feel more soothed and calm. Is it putting in your headphones and listening to something, listening to salawat or put on, or some classical music, whatever it is that helps you cope. The Ruh meditation app, inshallah. Anything that's kind of helpful to get you back grounded, going out for some fresh air. Just, if you can't leave your kids, just opening the door or the window, taking really big, deep breaths. So there's this type of breathing called diaphragmatic breathing, which I think Sister Sada Sultan talked about last time, which is so helpful because you're literally, you're physiologically relaxing your body, right? Which is so important when we're struggling, because we start to feel like we're in that fight or flight response that I need to just react. I feel threatened, I feel in a state of where I'm not well, and then we react in a much more out of proportion way. Breathing, giving yourself time to pause where your emotions aren't flooding your brain, right? We call that emotional hijacking, where emotions have flooded our brain. The logic part of our brain isn't really kicking in yet. So I take some deep breaths, I pause, and then I'm able to cope much better. And this takes practice, right? You think breathing, we all know how to breathe, but this type of breathing in particular is so, so important. And like I said, it directly sends a message to the heart to slow down. So practicing this outside of those moments. So during moments where you're feeling calm and everything is okay, practicing these deep breaths, practicing how you'll respond when you're feeling that anger bubbling up, that frustration beaker's almost full. Okay, this is how I'll respond. And kind of visualizing it, visualizing yourself in that state where your children are maybe having meltdowns, you're not coping well, how you'll react, how you'll be able to respond better and take those deep breaths. And it's a skill. It'll take practice. Don't be hard on yourself if, the next few times you're in that state, you still aren't able to cope. It's okay. It takes time. You'll get there. And then if we do yell, we go back and do the repair work with our children, right? We go down to their level. We look at them and say, I'm sorry I yelled. I did not respond to you the way I wanted to. Mommy's working on her feelings, right? To just give them that sense of I'm accountable for my actions and I did not like how I spoke with you is so powerful for kids. How can I bond with my teens? So basically trying to see what their interests are. What are their passions? Like, do we know what our teens like? What are my teens' hobbies? And joining them, if you can, in those hobbies. Like, do they like a certain genre of books that we can read together? Do they like a certain movie that we can go watch together? A sport? Can we play it together? Right? Just finding what they're interested in and really joining their world and showing them, I want to know more about you. Like, imagine how good it feels if someone you really admire sat with you and said, tell me about yourself. Tell me about what you like. I want to know more about you. Right? So knowing our teens, knowing what they like, what they're passionate and interested in, and joining them, trying to give them that one-on-one time. When they come and talk to us about something, doing that 80-20 rule, or like more 80% listening, 20% talking, asking them if they need advice or if they're just here to vent, right? Obviously, sometimes we need to give advice depending on the situation. And just sending them a message, I'm on your team. Even when I say no to something, it's because I'm on your team. It's because I love you. I care for you. I always use the words, it's my job to care for you. And if I let you do this, I'm not doing my job. And my kids usually respond really well to that. So like, okay, right? So just having conversations with them, treating them like, they really are trying to be more independent. They're trying to find their place in the world, their identity is still forming, talking to them about relevant issues to them, talking to them about something that's on your mind, just having conversations with our teens, right? If they're sitting down, they're on their phone or they're reading or doing something, say, hey, I want to talk to you about something that I read the other day. Just have a conversation so that the only time they're hearing from us isn't when we're requesting things from them or reprimanding them or saying, clean your room, go do your homework. It's more like, hey, like I've had a lot of positive interactions with my mom. Guess who's going to be a lot more willing to kind of listen to you when you ask them to do things? The child that feels connected to you and that feels a good relationship and bond because we've put that effort in, we've filled in their emotional tanks, we've told them we love them, we told them we see the good in them, right? Versus a child who only hears from us when we're telling them that we're doing something wrong, seeing their unique strengths, right? Telling them, I really think that you're really good at this. Or I love the way you do that. How did you think to do that? So giving them that reassurance that you see them, you see the good in them, you see their strengths, and inshallah, that connection will form. I think we have a couple more questions. So maybe I'll just answer those, Elena, the ones you put in the chat.
Sure.
How to manage time. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just saying, sure, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. How to manage time. Okay, so this is really hard because sometimes our time isn't fully our own. Our kids are demanding things of us. We have to take them to appointments, activities, school drop-offs, school pickups, all of that, and then add work onto that and everything else. It really helps to wake, kind of the night before. So try to prepare for your next day the night before. Look at your calendar, look what you have. So I do this every night. Okay, tomorrow I have this, this, and that. What can I do the night before to help make the next day much smoother? Okay, I'm going to get everyone's clothes ready. I'm going to look up the route that I'm taking to this place. If it's somewhere new, I'm going to prepare lunches ahead of time. And just giving myself that half an hour. It only takes about 30 minutes, but I've saved myself a lot of worrying and anxiety and rushing and running around the next day. So my day is already starting off a lot smoother, and having kind of the top priorities for the day. So looking at what you have. So I'm sure each of us has a to-do list that could run through the streets. It's so long, but looking through our to-do list and saying, okay, this is what I need to do today. This is really important that I actually can't keep to another day. Prioritizing those things, looking at where we're spending most of our time. So I actually had to do a bit of a reality check with myself with my phone use. And I'm like, wow, like I'm spending a lot more time on my phone than I really want to. And when I started deleting some apps, I found that I had a lot more time in my day. So my argument towards myself of I don't have time to do this kind of went out the window, because now I had all this time that I could fill with doing the things that I needed and wanted to do, taking care of myself, reading, walking, doing whatever else I needed. So I wasn't so overwhelmed. So just seeing where in your day you have those pockets of time that are sometimes not being used, in your own standards to the best way, and just seeing where you can cut back from that, and trying to batch things together, kind of, so they call it like time chunking. So I'm going to do the next 30 minutes of meal prep, and then from 1 o'clock to 1:30 I'm going to read, or then I'm going to pray, and then I'm going to go pick up my kids, like trying to have chunks and blocks of time. So it might help as well. And then the last question is resources for moms with special needs. I have a big place in my heart for moms, moms with special needs, or children with, so moms of children with special needs. I think that's what it says. Okay. Yeah. And this is a big part of my work. I work with children who, have various needs, children with autism, ADHD, sensory processing needs. And whenever it's usually the moms that bring them to appointments, or the moms that are there when I go visit them in their homes. And I always just look at the mom and say, how are you? I know I'm here for your child, but I need to see how you're doing. Because I can give all the strategies in the world, and if mom isn't okay, it's just overwhelming her more. And we need moms to be okay. So resources for moms, check locally. There's usually like a children's treatment center or a family center in most communities. Those are a wealth of knowledge. Usually they have programs, they have support groups, trying to see if there's other moms in your area, in your community, that also have children with special needs, and seeing if you can support one another, even just emotionally. Online, there's a lot of moms of children with special needs that talk about the struggles and how to cope. There's just, it depends where you live and kind of what resources are out there. I don't know of anything virtually that could be accessed by anyone anywhere, but to check even with your child's pediatrician, do we have support for moms? There's usually organizations that have a lot of funding that you can apply to give like respite care, support, education, workshops for parents. So I know locally here we have that where I live. So I hope, inshallah, you'll find the support you need, and that you're doing okay yourself. Inshallah.
Inshallah, that was great. Jazakallah khair, Sister Runda. We had great questions come in. We had great questions in the form submitted. Actually, I've noticed that there were a few questions about how to prevent mom guilt, and postpartum challenges, how to manage them, and so on. And it might be a spoiler, but we are going to keep on collaborating with Sister Runda about this motherhood journey series. It started with mom burnout, and inshallah, we're going to work next on mom guilt, because as many of you have said, that it could feel, you could feel a lot of guilt around taking care of yourself, spending time for yourself. And why does that happen? Some of you have asked. So inshallah, the mom guilt series could turn into a resource where you could go to about all these questions and find comfort, inshallah. And perhaps we could hopefully have another session in the future, inshallah, with Sister Runda, where you could ask even more specific questions to get tips around your story, your experiences, inshallah. So please look forward to that. And with that, we can conclude our today's event, inshallah. Jazakallah khair for joining us, everyone, and Sister Runda for being with us today. It was a pleasure to have you, and for our audience, for our moms to meet with you. Again, I'm not a mother, but I'm honored to be in the presence of mothers. So thanks again for joining, everyone.
Thank you. Jazakumullah khair.